their portion of their taxes? So do they actually pay the whole tax and then we reimburse them
Correct,
back?
you have to pay the whole tax, and then you get reimbursed. The assessor made an error, so it's been held, and, the figures that I had calculated as well as were equal. The assessor is gonna have to make a change to the commitment, and is informed to do that. But, the amount is correct, that was calculated by the assessor for the discrepancies. This is their first year here, so Ron has said it will never happen again.
Did we have a leak, Catherine?
Pardon?
Did we have a leak?
Oh,
That chair is wet and everything in the desk is wet.
okay, something happened. There's no place. Oh, look, wow. We did. Never had a leak down here.
Well, where did it leak down here? Where did it leak from? I mean, you got
I don't
the
know.
roof upstairs.
Plumbing.
Huh?
If it came from the roof, it would have
There's nothing up there though,
Yeah.
is there?
Yeah.
through anything upstairs unless.
Yeah, there's no plumbing up there though,
What's directly above you?
that's what I'm thinking, it'd be the office.
The office, there's nothing going on.
Emily's office or something right around there, I would say.
There's nothing going on now. Well, we'll have to investigate.
Yeah, it looks like there's water in that one too.
Must be the roof
Wow.
that's coming down maybe through the wall.
Could be, I
It
guess.
could travel down.
Yeah.
Oh, this is the
joist or
first time there's
something.
been anything. And they were just up on the roof looking at it and said it looked really good, you know, for that age. Okay. Wow, I'm sorry about that.
No, that's all right. It's-
Now you know, and this is recent too, because we
Yep.
just used it.
Put your life jacket on, Bob.
Remember when I had my boat on my lawn?
You're a Navy man, so.
Well, it's a good thing we're doing the roof ahead of what was, perceived to be the skinhole.
Yeah, Holly and Dr. Canadi made fun of me when I had my boat on the lawn. When I first got it and didn't have a trailer.
All right, let me go upstairs and see if I've got a message from Deborah, and I'll be right back. You all can go through the warm rats. And I shall return shortly.
Howard, you get any trick-or-treaters over your way?
You what?
Any trick-or-treaters over your way?
I was just telling Heather that last year we had like 3. You know, we see them going up and down Somerset,
Yeah.
but they
We got like 180.
really.
Yeah.
We had next to nobody last year. You know,
Yeah, well, Arlene, my neighbor across on West Street, said they got like 25.
really. Yeah.
So they're staying right to the main road, I guess.
Yeah, I think so.
So we don't do a whole lot of shopping. Did you know that police pants cost $94 a piece?
Really.
Yeah.
They told us one time they cost for a whole outfit. You know, what was expensive. But
$50 for a shirt.
the boots are 70 or 80, I think.
Aren't even
or
on
more.
here. Two hat badges are $90 each. So is that the little emblem that goes on there?
It's big.
Holy smoke. Our office is even a little less good. It could be incognito. Do you know if Deborah's coming?
She didn't have a check.
Oh.
Yeah, she's been hurting a bit lately.
That's what I heard, yeah.
Did she fall again? She's still healing?
I don't know, she's healing her wrist, but I thought
Or she said she had some herniated discs in her back.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. She did her wrist and then she fell.
Yeah.
She fell again and hurt her back. Or no, she was moving a box in the garage or something.
All right, so I've got agendas in case anyone would like one.
Okay, then.
Get using them. I talked to Steve, he'll have public works checking out first thing tomorrow morning. He doesn't think it's the roof. There's nothing up there. Let's see what we got here. It's extra lights. Let's keep on as few as possible over there. Okay. No way to turn those ones on. All right, so we've got the finance committee meeting on Halloween, and we're having a spooky day here with all kinds of strange things going on, but candy everywhere. So our first item is to sign warrants and sign water and sewer commitments. None yet. I always put that on there just in case. The truck has broken down that has the new meter reader in it. And so that meter reader can only plug into that truck because of all the connections. So the truck is being worked on now. So we'll do the readings as soon as possible. Second item is a capital improvement plan. And we only have the excavator left to put out to bid, and Public Works Foreman's aware of that. All of the coatings are on the roads and working well. There's one small section to fix by the Snake Road Bridge where it dragged, and so that's something the company should fix on their own and not charge the town. Detroit Avenue needs its overlay. However, the manhole covers are all a strange size. That it is likely when the town did some of the roads, we thought this was only Main Street, but evidently it's more than Main Street, because now Detroit Avenue, they have manholes that are not traditional sizes. So I suspect this is something the town bought on sale. And so now, if we're going to fix them, we have to either dig them out so it'll gouge the pavement, which we're not going to do, or have the manhole, the risers made specially. So they're getting prices on that now. And we've been told it'll take 2 to 3 months. So we'll do the overlay next year in spring. And the company's agreeable to that. So other than that, we're got a couple of projects that we will rebid for next year if approved in the capital plan and for next year. And then we've got a couple of things that we can bid out during the winter. I would say probably end of February is usually a good time. We can bid out the 3 projects that came in really high, get much better pricing. Other than that, the capital improvement plan worked good. I'm working on a timetable so that everything will go out to bid. And we've got a few bids that will be coming into the council in November and December for projects, so that we can get better pricing or actually have the bids ready to go for items that we put into the capital plan. And so the timetable for next year will have us either going out for the loan in January to the Maine Municipal Bond Bank, or just going out to the commercial sector later on, but earlier than we did this year. So that should work out good. And I've got that timetable set up. I'm just working on firming up some of the dates. Any questions? You want to dig into the budget? All right, 2020 budget process. So we talked about looking at the additionals and the capital improvement plan. So I brought down copies of the additions and I brought down copies of the capital improvement plan. And you've got your books. And we could talk about the borrowing for the CIP plan too. I did some estimates there. So for the additionals, those are under the last tab in your book, tab 10. And we can just call this a preliminary review, because you may want to have people come in and speak about their items.
Think so.
But we'll find out what we got for questions. So all the additionals that were put in were items that counselors and other individual department heads or staff had noted. Just because they're listed, that doesn't necessarily mean, and I submitted them or somebody else done it, it doesn't necessarily mean that, we would support these, but we should support everybody, having the right to submit their items.
Oh, thank you. Sorry.
So you'll see the total there of different types of items that have been brought up during the year. We got some full-time positions, we've got people that would like to have business assistants come directly from the taxpayer dollars in the town rather than other outside entities. We talked about a programmable message sign, which can be as elaborate or as little as people would like. And so I've got a couple of prices there, but there's many, many different scenarios. I was surprised at how much you could do and tailor them. Code enforcement talks about some minor items such as file cabinets, but they are an additional because they're not in our budget. And we can no longer go to the state surplus and get items because what's there is, well, it used to be really good because things were thrown away at the state that probably, were better than what you should be throwing away, but now it's just totally junk that's there. And the violation assistance that we talked about with legal and other services. And then the police department, I wanted to note that the police chief talked to me late last week and he would like to withdraw the deputy chief position. With all the issues going on in the police department, personnel issues and otherwise, he would prefer to leave that for next year or the year after. And the captain position, the same. He already has $5,000 in his budget, and so he suggested that be removed. And this is a negotiation year too. The policies should stay because and he wants that to stay because that's a way to update their large standard operating procedures, and that would be quite a task because that would be.
Sounds like a good project, yeah.
Yes. It looks, you look at what we go through with the ordinance committee and codifying everything, and it just takes a long time. So this would get it done in a few months. Public Works has another position, and we did put in engineering so that we could, instead of just designing these projects and fixing things as we go along, we've got roads that have significant problems with how they were built, decades ago. Some of them are what's called local road assistance program roads, so that means that they were from the state given back to the town, and their base is not good, basically. The town has some roads that base isn't good on. They have drainage issues, but they also have water sewer lines. A typical problem area is Library Street, for example. That requires engineering, and that would be a very expensive fix. There's significant issues underneath the road. Everything is crammed in. You got lines running everywhere. You don't even know what some of the lines are because we tried to. It looks like you've got old drainage there that's been used for sewerage, and some is used for stormwater drains, and then there's other lines that don't go anyplace. And so we would need engineering funding for something like that. And there's probably a few other ones in town. Steve, Public Works Foreman, put together a list. The roads, like Birchwood Terrace, for example, is one road that needs a lot of work done to it. It's got significant base issues. But the roads in town would be the ones that would require the help because they have water sewer lines which are moved around or are jammed right in with the stormwater drains and the base issues. So those would require help. Whereas you get out in the country, you basically can fix your roads by going through the process that we just went through, making sure you have proper grade, proper base, which is where you would do the process when you grind the road, and you have your proper drainage and you get all of your roots out of the way, which can be done without engineering. So that's why engineering's in there to address some of the roads in town, so that we're doing it ahead of time and not doing it when we're trying to put money in the budget for them. And then in the water sewer enterprise funds is the financial clerk position. And as you know, Councilor Billings went through and did a study here in the office and found that 2 positions, in her estimation, from being a office manager, were needed in the town office. And she's not here this evening, she's not feeling well, so all of these, I wouldn't see you would make any, you know, you can do preliminary discussion, but maybe you would want to, you know, go over what we have for questions tonight. You might be able to approve some because there's enough information, but others would definitely need more information.
Catherine, did she write any type of like report to the council, justifying a request or anything like that, or?
She was working on that, and then she, you know, had her injury. So yes, we will get something. I will meet with her, but she hasn't been feeling well, understandably. So I did submit the items with the information that I had.
Catherine, at the workshop, we discussed briefly, you know, getting an efficiency evaluation with respect to all. I mean, you've got potentially 1, 2, maybe 3, 4 additions of people in the town overall. Is that right?
I think the police department wants them, but
No.
would like to resolve some things first.
Yeah.
So those would go out. So you actually have 3. You have 1 for water sewer department, 1 for public works, and 1 for administration, town office, finance, etc.
Didn't the code officer have a request as well?
He has a request for the violation assistance, so that's legal funding, and some funds to fix things from the code violations that seem to go nowhere, that people just ignore him after a while.
Mm-hmm.
And they ignore others that call too.
No, I thought that I saw something come through that he was requesting another position within code enforcement.
Oh, that's where he wants, he needs some help doing the minutes at the meeting. Either we would hire somebody to come in and just do an hourly thing, somebody that wants to do something on the side, which I think would be minor, or we could take the minutes or notes that he has, and we have the digital recordings, and then we'll just do them in the office. That's probably the solution.
So, but either one of those would require additional budget monies to do that than what's already in his department budget?
If it's done by the current staff, no.
Does the
If
current
it's
staff
done
have
by,
time to do that though?
yeah, if we hired somebody, like what most towns and what he's thinking of, and this is something that was done years ago, you would hire somebody that did the minutes to your council meetings, minutes to planning board, zoning board, and sometimes other meetings. And so they would get paid like a stipend for that night, but you're not supposed to be doing stipends, so they would become a part-time, you know, temp employee and do the minutes. But it may be hard to find somebody to do that.
Would that be more under administration?
We could put it
department?
under, yeah, we could. I think that this is something that staff can probably do once we realign positions.
Mm-hmm.
The full-time office HR manager, what would be unloaded from you, Catherine, with respect to, you know, how will that help? I mean, I know that you're here all hours of the day and night, and, you know, that's, you know, unhealthy, and, you know, from the point of view of the workload that you do, are there specifics that you would unload to this person?
So at the current time, I have a lot of interruptions because the staff will come in and want to do different items. We put different people in for the office manager's position, but that has not worked out since Vicki was here. Vicki did a magnificent job. That was her talent. And so that would free up all of the items that people would come in and want assistance for in determining non-financial type things. The HR part, I do work on that. Emily does all the payroll. She does the beginning things, but she'll come in and check on different items if there's a complicated item. But what's happening is that we're not proactive. We don't go out and check all the benefits. We don't work on additional benefits for people that might help, or changing the benefits that we have now that might save money. Where we've got certain things, and because we're so busy on everything, statutory requirements, we don't go out, we're not proactive figuring out new training programs or things that make people more efficient, or bringing in programs, doing a wellness program, for example. We've done that in my 2 other towns, but it's very, very busy here, and so we started that up, but it was one of the items that had to go beside the wayside. So I would see that this would make things more organized, spend more time. Now, I can not work on the financial part as much and then do more of this. I mean, I've said before, I don't care what I work on, but I'm running around, as you know, from thing to thing. And so if we want to have any push for, huge success, we've got to streamline items more towards certain people. Now, the staff is working on the ability of the citizens to be able to do things from their homes, and that's got installed a bit, so I will help with that. But if we can cut down on the number of people coming in, that will help, and that was something we talked about. I will say that from the ability of using the credit cards, people like that, or the debit cards, but a bank reconciliation that was 2 hours is now several days, because there's so many entries in and out. And everything does not happen on the same day. It will have a different day, so you have to piece together what went on. And because there's more entries to make, there's more errors that are made, so there's more things that need to be fixed. So that has helped with the citizens, but that, as I thought, would take more time for a reconciliation. But it is a service for the citizens, and I think we'll find a trend where we get more money, in the years to come, and so it will be worthwhile, especially if we add on people being able to do the renewals of certain items from their home or their car or outside the office or what have you online. New items always have to be done at the office first.
Do you think, looking at the staffing and how some staffing needs to be changed, would it be more beneficial to have, if the financial clerk position is just for the water sewer, would it be more beneficial to have an actual accountant handling all of the reconciliations and all of the financial accounting of the town, so that frees, that seems like it's a huge time sink for you to be doing that, and if that piece were removed and an entire one person were handling just that piece, that would free up a considerable amount of time.
That's an option. It would. What works well here, when I try to do this during the week, this is where you're in, just like anybody, you're interrupted and people running in and out, and there's items going on. People want to meet with just you, they don't want to meet with anyone else, or give the information to the other people, which could be as efficient, but that's okay, because they're the citizens and businesses, and they should have what they want within reason. So during the week, it takes a lot longer to do the reconciliation. So what I've done, and I don't like this, and when the weekends come up, it's like I've got to do this. I don't mind working on the weekend if I was working on grant research or something that would be proactive for the town. I think that's great. Business type activities. We're going to do a Pittsfield Buy Local project for the theater to benefit the theater on Small Business Saturday. So I wouldn't mind doing that at all. But to do the reconciliations, I just hunker down Friday night, and we just keep on working, through the weekend until they're done, and then they're all done because I do them all at once. It's more efficient. I get it done faster. There's a lot less interruptions. I just have the police and firefighters in the building, or if there's an emergency, which is rare for public works or something. So that's where it's very efficient to do it on the weekend and do everything at once. But, we should be doing these each week and not having them all stored out for one weekend or 2 weekends. But the auditor's been fine with that, understanding, you don't have all the positions. Normally, a town manager wouldn't do these, some of this. Some town managers do some of it. But we need somebody who does not work the counter, who does not have the combination to the safe, who
Right.
can't get to the money, who does all the reconciliations.
You
And
need a
so,
bookkeeper.
and so, yeah, so it's logical I would do that.
I mean, personally, I would see that as the more overall benefit, and I would be more supportive of hiring someone for that position
Mhm.
than for hiring for the HR manager position, just because I think that if that piece were removed from the town manager's plate, that it would free up so much more time for you to be able to be more effective with the staff during
Mhm.
the week. And it would give that complete separation of someone that's not, cause you get pulled to the counter and back and forth from time to time, and it would have that complete separation of
Mhm.
either on the counter or not off the counter,
Mhm.
you know. So I mean, I personally, I think that's, would be a better investment in the town to have that position filled.
So that would have the positives of more time to work with the department heads, more time to work with the staff, the part-time people that don't have department heads, or the part-time department heads who struggle, because we have several departments. The
Mhm.
part-time people, there's no way that they can run a whole department, so
Right.
sometimes their things fall between the cracks. So that's where, when I didn't spend as much time, I worked with them a lot, and things were smoother, and I think there was less frustration. But you know, the world has changed in the last 20 years too, last 10 years even.
So would that have the same price tag on it, approximately, as an HR person, if we were to hire a bookkeeper for the town?
I would have to go
Or an
check
accounts
that,
manager.
I'll check that out.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll check on that. There's different scenarios. We are one less person than what we had when I came. So I see one more position will be very helpful. I don't see the need for 2 or 3 or what have you. But everybody's got a different opinion. So this is where I said this is all very preliminary. But Deborah's right, we do need another position.
Mhm.
It's just, what is it? So I'll get some more research on that. I came up kind of empty on names for efficiency study, but some of the people have not called back yet. So we'll keep working on that. Yeah, because I do think that's a good idea. I had one of those in a town that was growing just dynamically, and it was very helpful. It does take a few months though.
Yeah, that's true.
When we did it, it was three months. 3 months. At the end of the 3 months, we did the study. But it was still extremely helpful.
You get the impression from somebody on the outside who's seen other
Yeah.
offices working.
Yeah,
too.
definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
And usually they know about municipal, nonprofit, and business, so it's very helpful.
The business assistants, who would oversee that? I mean, it's going to be, because it looks like it's kind of a grant application type thing.
Mhm.
The local businesses coming to the town for money. It's not a loan per se.
Correct. At least this proposal type, because this is what people have talked about. I mean, there's lots of loan money out there. We've met with several people, Pittsfield Economic Expansion Corporation's met with them, and they said, look, we want a grant, we do not want a loan. I mean, you can go to the bank and get a loan. There's KB cog, CEI, Coastal Enterprises, Somerset Economic Development Corp. There's a lot of loan money out there. But, people that are looking for actual grants, and what they're thinking of, to some extent, is that in a town such as Fairfield, which has 51% low and moderate income, in the cities, and there's other towns that are eligible, Skowhegan may have had this, you can set up and get grant money from the state through the Community Development Block Grant Program. We're not eligible for that because we're above the 51% low and moderate, or we're below it, the 51% low and moderate income. So we don't meet that, so that people can come in and get a new venue for the front of their building, new signing, something that would make the front of the building or the back look more attractive. So some of the towns run these, and I think people are thinking of that to some extent. But where we would have to dedicate the money ourselves from some source to do that. So that's something that could be done. It could be just for creation of jobs. And I pulled out one because Portland's program looked kind of interesting. Their monies came because they get an entitlement, they get an allocation of the community development block grant monies, and they can utilize it within the regulations of HUD. So they get direct money. So that was kind of interesting about how it was set up and everything. So it gives you an idea. There are other types. You could do the facade grant that I mentioned previously for the front of your buildings or backs or to buy equipment. But I probably, because towns are not good at doing loans, I doubt that we would do the loans. Just when I came here and what we had to deal with on all the loans that had not worked out. I mean, Howard had a successful loan, but he was one of the few. Many people did not. So the person that would do this would be Michael for Economic Community Development. He's sort of working on everything now, as we all do. That's what happens once you get in the office, you work on everything.
I think that, I mean, I want to see business development in town, but I don't know that just, giving someone a grant to help them hire a new position is what's going to, I mean, if they're able to hire a new position and their business is growing to the point where they need to hire more people, then their business is already going. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. I mean, I
agree. I'd like to see some examples of, does Portland require them to add a position?
Yes, it has to be a new position.
Has to be a
and
new
you have
position.
to have a certain number of hours.
And has it been successful in Portland? I mean, Portland's a different kind of city.
They believe it is, yes.
Yeah.
Well, they also, I mean, because you said that they have an entitlement through the CGDB grant program, they know they're gonna have this funding every year, and it's not actually coming out of their budget. It's not, you're not asking the taxpayers in town to help support 3 businesses to create 3 new jobs in town. I would be more inclined to use, if we were gonna say, okay, we wanna spend $60,000 on economic development, I would be more inclined to have it be for a position for someone to go out and find more businesses to come to town, and to be able to attract people to come to town to work at our businesses that already have a hard time finding
Yes,
enough
they do.
employees, especially qualified employees. The town has a hard time finding.
Oh, I know, we all are.
So,
we started out with Chimbro and then went to all of us.
Yeah, I mean, I would be more supportive of having something like that and having it be more of a all-around boost the town's, kind of like what Peak is doing, with the all over, like,
The video.
profile of town and making the town of Pittsfield what people think about when they're thinking about where do I want to have my business. They have this beautiful place, they have the parks, they have the quality of life, they have good schools, that's the kind of thing that I would be more supportive, because it doesn't help like 1 or 2 businesses, it helps all the businesses in town if we can raise the profile of the town as a whole. Plus there's a lot of programs out there. CEI has several business development programs that are available to people, and all you have to do is do a little digging. And they have grant programs. It takes a little time, it takes a little effort to do it. A lot of times there's business support for business plan development and marketing plan development. There's a lot of business support around the area. SCORE is a really great resource for people, and even the small business office in Fairfield or in Bangor. And KV-COG has programs too. So I think there's a lot of that around, and it's just a matter of if people want help for their business, they need to go and get it. It's not, I don't think it's up to the town to.
So these are all programs that we have proposed to people that have stated that we should be providing the funds, and they want the monies to come from the town, not from the other entities. So there were a few of these the last couple of years. So I brought this forward because, they felt that the town should be committed and be providing the benefits, not all these other entities.
we've always gone to the other end.
You
Like
can
Kennedy said,
economic
council
development, but,
for
you know.
quite a while, and there's too many risks, I think, with the town giving money out to, most of the time you don't get it back. That's just a
Right.
fact.
I mean, how do you show?
Well, this would be
the-
a grant, so we wouldn't be expecting
Oh,
it.
no.
Right, but I'm saying,
But-
Oh, no.
Yes, yeah.
You know, I think this would have, people would have a hard time swallowing this one.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's
No,
even
I
coming
would
from
agree.
tax money,
I agree.
you know, with the rest of the capital improvements that are.
right,
Yeah, but that being said, I would be all for like establishing an Office of Economic Development for the town and have that be the sole purpose of that position or that department or that office is their job is to promote the town of Pittsfield and help organizations in the town of Pittsfield get advertising out so people come to their events and, you know, maybe that meshes in with MCI and the school district and the police station and, you know, all the other entities in town to help, you know, raise the profile of Pittsfield, you know.
we actually had that at one point, when I first got on the council, we had an economic development person, and
Most towns do.
the council at that time decided that it wasn't feasible to keep her on, so they got eliminated the position.
Yeah, most
Yeah.
towns do have a person in charge of that, and for us, you know, it's Catherine, along with the other 5,000 things that the town manager
Mhm.
has to do.
Yeah.
And like everything else, when you put so much on one position, nothing really gets the attention that it should have because they're pulled in so many
Mhm.
different directions.
Yeah, I think, you know, the example of that is that, you know, Michael theoretically was hired for economic development.
Oh, he's doing everything.
He's doing everything.
And
Yeah.
economic
You
development.
know,
Yeah.
so I think the concept of getting, you know, reestablishing a vision for the town that is under an economic development umbrella, you know, I think is important because, you know, if indeed the town is coming out of the economic doldrums of, you know, the last decade, I think that, you know, we need to be at the forefront, particularly with trying to improve our roads, trying to improve our infrastructure.
So this is where all the grant work that we've done has worked out well, but grant funds have dried up and are much more competitive. But if time was freed up, I know there's more money out there, but it's more complicated to get it now. And we're working on the water and sewer budgets so that we can absorb another loan payment and then we can get a low interest loan when we go through that process so that we can fix more items. But right now, until we make those changes that we've identified, we cannot absorb another loan payment.
Right.
Either we need a rate increase for water, and for the sewer, we need to be allowed by the USDA to stop putting the capital allocation of $85,000 for the sludge removal in the budget. We have enough money, this needs to stop. And I don't have an answer as of yet. I was told it probably has to go to Washington DC, so, you know, we'll keep
Now,
working on it.
if they approve that request not to have to put that allocation in, can you then shift the
Yes.
$85,000 a
Yes.
year into more infrastructure
That's what
type things
we
each
can do
year?
that,
And
primarily.
not be able to make gains on the infrastructure without having.
Yeah, it'll be a debt service payment, so no rate change. I mean, the sewer bills are high enough, you know, for most people. They don't need to get any higher, but if we can not be required to meet that requirement, which we understood why we had to have it in the beginning, it's because we didn't have any money and we had to go out and go through a process because we had the lowest sewer rate in the state of Maine. We couldn't even take care of the sewer system, and so we had to go through, you know, and have the sewer flow study done, hire a qualified engineer, not just anybody, but we hired all of our associates, which expertise is in this area, helping out the towns that, you know, need to move forward here, from the 1970s, which was when the rates were established, way back when. And then we were able to go forward once we raised the rates to qualify for the funding, because no funder is going to give you money if you're not using your resources, you know, to their extent. So the water rate increase is something that we need to look at. I know people are not going to be happy about that, but to move the water system forward from this constant just catch up period, that's what we'll have to do. Our rate has fallen down, so it's under the average again. It's always under the average, but it's fallen down a bit more, because other towns have had, and districts have had to go forward too. And then the sewer, we could avoid this if we can reallocate the funding to something more productive here.
Do you think that can happen, Catherine, or?
I think it will be approved, it's gonna take a while. So I didn't change the sewer budget.
So the money that's in there now would just stay there?
We're gonna ask to reallocate some of it. We've got a lot of money, we should not need that amount of money.
Right, because we know how much now it's gonna cost
Yes.
to dig out those lagoons and,
Correct, and
All that,
they
so.
weren't even remotely near what the
Right.
three engineering studies had
Right.
said. So we were that was the most fortunate grant loan probably anyone has ever gotten. And we lucked out.
we did a lot with that money.
So we can start working on those again, and we're going through the process. I asked for it last year. They didn't think it could get approved, but I've asked for it again this year, and they see we're gonna be persistent on it. So the next one is the programmable sign, and you can get any type of sign that you want. We should probably get some input from some different groups on, how much flashing or how much visibility we want on a sign. But you can start out with something even smaller than that, but what I've seen in some towns is that it's gotta be large enough so that it's not causing a traffic problem, because people are trying to read the sign and hit something or hit another person, and that has happened. We would wanna have it be LED. I've got, I would say over 20, I think I had 23 different types of signs, just because we found some good companies. I'd like to talk with a company down in Waterville that makes these signs custom, have them come up and look at our area and make a proposal for us. So that's one of the items that's on my list to do once I close out the 2 grants. They have to be closed out now.
Something on the front of the building?
Front of the building, yeah, we got the perfect
Would
location.
it be attached to the building or
Yeah,
freestanding or?
It can be out on the grass. We would have to dig a line to the building. You could get it programmed so that you can run it from your computer. And then we'd be able to change the sign. We don't want it to be too detracting, because it's a nice area downtown, except for buildings that people can't sell or use. But other than that, the downtown's attractive, so you don't want something that's flashy.
Holton has a nice looking one, but it's awful big, it's quite bulky as far as I'm concerned, but
So
it's nice up there beside the road and you can read it when you go by and it's colorful and
So that's Holden?
Holden, yeah.
Okay. See if we can get a picture of that one. But if we had some that we've liked, that we've seen around different places.
Elmira has one, I don't know, but theirs cost, they have one in front of their community center,
Okay.
town office area.
All right, so what we're gonna do is talk with the Waterville business, have them come out, because they design the signs, and they've got all of the different models, look over our area and see what would fit properly. But again, the one thing I found is people keep putting up signs and they'll have blinking things, and the print is not big enough. So it's got to be big enough so that people can actually read it without having traffic issues, but we don't want it too gaudy that it makes the front lawn look funny.
And
I don't think we need a sign. I mean, if anything, we need a sign to say that this is the municipal building, because it's
Yeah.
on the front of the building where you can't read it as you're driving by. If anything, just something that says Pittsfield Municipal Facility or.
See, this would advertise all the meetings, all the
Well, I
events.
know, but you don't have enough room on a sign. You'd have to have a loop running
Yeah.
to list all the meetings in a particular week. And you wouldn't ever be able to read all that unless you sit and park in front of the sign. Do you know what I mean? Like if it's going on a loop.
That's
Like
why-
Skowhegan has one out in front of their, I think it's the police station, and then they have it there. But you can only put like 5 words on there.
Mhm.
So.
It would have to be programmed with the items that we thought were the most important. So,
Right.
For a day you'd run this, or for 2 days we'd have to figure out what would work the best.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna spend, that much money, I think we should just invest it in something else.
All right, so the sign is something that's definitely been mentioned by counselors and by staff members. So I basically wrote up everything that people have, talked about being important. But again, this is all part of prioritization because you can't have everything. All right, so the next one is the file cabinets, a specific type of file cabinet that the code enforcement officer has requested, which would be 3 lateral file cabinets. These are not items that we could get from the state of Maine surplus office, and there's likely no file cabinets we can ever get from them again because they're what they are allowed to dispose of is not in good shape. That's where we got all of my file cabinets, and a lot of them out back. They were nice at that time, but we're gonna have to buy them this time. We did find some looking around for $4.50 each. So we're still working on that to try to get that down to what he'd like. But he would set those up in his office and they would open up. Right now he's got them so he's got 1 lateral and he's got regular file cabinets. And so when they open up, you have to, it doesn't really work the way you'd like. It opens up toward the lateral. You have to be careful you don't hit it and everything. So he's got them like that.
Can you describe what a lateral is? It
Yeah.
like maps? Is it like skinny or like maps?
Yeah, it'd be a lateral, would be
or-
long, and we have one upstairs in the entryway we got, that was taken to the transfer station, we went and got it quickly. You open it up like this, the files are in here like this. So you would put your green file folders in. I would put brown expanding folders, but most people would put your green hanging file folders in its lateral. So you pull it out and they're all there. Then you turn around and you have your, for him.
So you're looking at the side of it and
Yes.
pulling your files out
Yes,
instead
map
of
and
looking at
log.
it this way.
Correct, yeah.
Okay. And why do we need these particular ones? Because I mean, a
You need more
regular
room.
4 or 5 drawer filing cabinet is only like $150.
Yes,
Right.
the laterals are much more expensive.
Yeah.
So these
I think
are,
you can put more in the laterals.
oh yes. I think the price is too high. We found some for $4.50 each, but they're very expensive. The regular horizontal ones, 4 or 5, as you said, that's what the cost is.
Yeah, I don't know.
Volume is volume.
Yeah.
Does he have room in the office there?
He's measured it. He says it will all fit.
It's pretty cramped space right now. Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yep, this is true.
Is there anything in his office that can be stored?
He did. He has a bunch of. He has left after we did the Thailand project. He has left probably an area the size of half of the middle table out in the reception area of stuff he wants to go someplace else. So that would all be digitized, but right now, that project is. We got to figure out how to do that. So yes, there are items that he took out of his office, which perhaps, will realign stuff out back, but we gotta get it in the file cabinets too. And we sort of filled the back area here.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I think that, I'm talking about like standard size filing folders, and they're not like specialty that are like large maps or large format or something like that. I think that a standard filing cabinet would work just as well as a lateral filing cabinet. And you need less space to stand and look at the files with a regular one than versus one that you have to pull all the way out to see. So I would say just buy regular file cabinets.
Okay, I'm making a note for him.
Can we just ask him why he needs the lateral versus the regular?
It's because of how he would put them in his office. He believes he can get all the files in he needs. Right now he's filled. We've taken items out, we put them in the assessor's office, so that's where he's been putting his items, but that's filled now. So that's why we're looking at the digitization project.
Getting 3 lateral file he has file cabinets in there now, correct?
Yeah, those would go away.
So those would go away.
They'd have to.
Well, they would just, this would just replace the
This
ones
would
we already have.
replace-
So he's not gaining any space then for actual storage. If he has 3, he just wants to replace them.
He thinks
With
he
this
is.
style.
He thinks he is. He's done some measuring. He believes there's more room in the laterals than the regular horizontals. Yeah, I have to say, he's been talking about this all year. all last year too. All right, so I've written down some comments on that one. So we'll proceed on here. The next one we got is the violation assistance. And the code enforcement officer put together the listing of the most atrocious or the worst violations in his estimate. And so I didn't put that in the package because it was going online and I didn't want to list the people's names. But I can certainly provide that to you. You've seen a lot of them in the letters and things. So there were 9 on that list. So I contacted the town attorney, we made a copy of everything that was in the files, we shipped it out to the town attorney, had her look through it to make sure that we had done enough code enforcement on our own and properly. And so it came back that, you know, some of these were complicated ones, so a projected cost from the beginning to the end per land use enforcement case, and this isn't because the town attorney wants anything to do with these, they don't like these in fact, but they know that towns have them and they went through their records and it's $5,000 to $10,000 to go through the whole process, pay the fees, keep going back, and helping the towns to address the items. Now, if the town gets, as was discussed by some citizens, businesses previously, gets an order to tear down the facility, you could use the monies toward some of that because you might have public works, you know, rent a piece of equipment and go in and do some work. But again, that would be extreme and I just don't think we have the money or ability to do that. But these would be for a couple of buildings that, you know, seem to be, you know, in the what might be considered dangerous, but they're not quite there. Dealing with a couple of them, the mortgage companies own them. And so trying to get them to do anything is very difficult. Some mortgage companies will work on the facility and fix things up, but that's rare. So these are the problematic ones that are on, some of them are on the main roads and some are not. They're issues that have bothered the residents, and rightly so. I mean, the one, for example, is not on the list, you know, the one on West Street, you know, we may have put, you know, out tape and boarded up part of the building, but we can't board up the whole back of it. But the mortgage company is, you know, you contact them. How many times do you contact them and keep after them before you have to actually do something?
You're talking about the one that was on fire?
Yeah, yes. You'd have to go to court to make them do something, you know. You can call continuously, you can write letter after letter, you can write stronger letters. In the cases of some of those in the early stages, you know, we would say, after talking to the insurance at the time, that we would be discussing this at the council meeting in their letter, and that if you don't want it to be discussed, please fix things up, or we're going to discuss what to do. You know, and we did have a couple of people show up, all excited, but most times it didn't work. But a couple of them did get resolved that way, because nobody wanted their name in the minutes or now on TV, I would think. But most of these are ones that have absent landlords, out of state, mortgage companies.
The thing with that one though is not only unsightly, but it's dangerous also. So if somebody gets in there and gets hurt, then who's liable? The town or?
No, the town's not liable. And we have records to show how much we've done, but we wouldn't be liable. No. Unfortunately, ones like those are what ends up being tax-defied properties because the mortgage companies out of state walk away.
Mm-hmm.
So it may be that we'll get money back on some of these. That could, if you set it up like a fund, could go in there to, you know, balance it out. We were very fortunate when we took somebody on Leonard Street in, but the only reason why we got paid right up was that person's personality you know, they were laying awake all night worrying about, you know, they were being fined, so they somehow came up with the money. Of course, now the place is the same way now that it was, so that's on the list again. So something needs to be done, but that is the ideal amount, according to the code officer. The town attorney has no desire to do these, and so they're not trying to make money. But if we want to do them, they will do them. They're not items that are winners usually. It's hard to sometimes get the court lately to allocate the $100 a day fine or even the attorney's fees.
Most of the time those don't get collected anyway though, right?
Pardon?
Most of the time those don't get collected anyway,
No, they don't.
even if they've been
No, they don't, but you can
through
try.
the system and.
Yeah, it's just the way the system is. Some will get resolved. There will be a couple of people, let's say we had 9, there'll be a couple of people who will fix the stuff because they don't want to go to court.
I think we need to be selective, you know, with that, and I think that, you know, the response around town is that, right now, we're not gonna do anything, so we'll just ignore whatever letter you send
It
us.
is. Mhm.
So I think at least changing our approach needs to try to do something,
Mhm.
you know.
And maybe having 1 or 2 taken to the full extent that it can go will set precedent and people will understand.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that will make a difference for a while, and so that will be successful, yes. Mhm. And we would pick out ones that would be more successful. Hopefully, they would be along the major travel routes, because that would probably be better in terms of, you know, getting people's attention that something happened. But they have to be ones that would be successful, and, you know, you don't want to pick out one that is the mortgage company out of state. That might not work.
So we know we have, did you say 3 that absolutely need to be taken care of? And
There's
we'll have to
probably
take them
3
to
in
court?
here that should, the code, all of them should be, but there's probably 3 that are the worst ones.
So if we budgeted for 3 to go through with the 10,000 and then the other, 6 at the 5,000?
So you're looking
That's
at
the
maybe
90.
60,000.
So that's what it already is.
50 to 60,000.
That's 30, 40, 50.
Or you could just start out with a smaller amount to, you know.
Well, that would put us at 60,000 instead of 90,000.
Mhm.
If we
Hmm.
assume that that's gonna be the case,
Mhm.
that 3 of them can be settled quickly versus the other ones that are gonna have to drag it out to go all the way. I think we just.
You
I
may
don't
not
know.
be able, you know.
None of them are getting any better.
Yeah.
So it's like-
Reality is, you're probably not gonna be able to take care of all 9, you know,
No.
within
No.
a year anyway, so.
No. This sort of gives you what the level is. You could do it over 2 or 3 years, 2 years.
So you think split it up over 3 years and do $30,000 a year?
I think that sounds good.
And then take care of the 3
The
worst
3
ones
worst ones every year,
first.
yeah.
Do 3 a year, and hopefully hopefully you can keep the other ones in check to,
Right.
that we don't have
There's gonna be
more
others
ones.
added on, but those could go at the end of the list unless they're really, really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some of this is the finances of the people. They just don't have the money, and
But the town's offered to help them too, and that's
Yes.
gone by the wayside and not.
in some cases it did, yes, because
Yeah,
we.
you offered to help the guy on Leonard Street with putting the bin up there.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
they've been up there, and that we
So
would come and
it's-
haul it away. We actually went in until,
There's other issues.
until we had other issues there, called ticks, and then we said, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
We even went in and helped pick it up.
So can we change that to recommend to 30,000? Does that sound more reasonable to try and get the 3 worst ones taken care of in a year and keep plugging away? And
Maybe that'll stimulate some of the
other
others to
ones.
kind of move forward a little
And we may
bit.
not even have to use all of that even, maybe
Yeah.
Yeah.
some of that could
Yeah.
send them a letter and maybe they'll start cleaning and,
Yeah, I'd
Right.
say, yeah, go
I mean, I think
with
that's fine.
30 would be a good start. Better than nothing.
Yes, this is true.
And I
this-
think the citizens' patience is wearing thin too, as far as
Yeah.
the properties that are eyesores and safety hazards and harboring who knows what within, you know, when they have to live next to that or near it, that it can affect.
Yeah, it shows we're being proactive on that
Yes,
anyway.
yes, because we have to do this, it's a negative item, but there's no choice. Okay, so then the next one, deputy chief position, the police chief had asked that that be tabled, and he'll bring that back either in 1 or 2 years, once everything's settled down. The same for the captain. He has 5,000 in the budget, so he can do add in a captain's position if he wants to in negotiation with the union.
Where is that stand
Yes,
right now?
yes. In fact, I just got a request that we negotiate, so they've asked for some dates at the end of November, beginning of December to do the first meeting. So this will be interesting.
You're on that committee, aren't
I think so.
Yeah, and so that's pretty much what usually happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
And
already
then-
talked about the Deergo Power
Yes.
Systems. I
Yeah.
think we talked about that at the council meeting
Mhm.
already,
Yeah,
and
we
we
did.
all agreed that
Yeah,
was a good
that's a good
idea.
one,
So public works.
because their book, they would go through and white out different places and fix items or type an additional page, but the book is not in the computer system. And so, you know, you can tell from the courier print that it's older. It's worked, but it's not up to date, and you need something that you can go in, like the town's codes, you can go in and make changes. Okay, so that one I think is fine. So that's $4,380. And then we will not be getting this 10% savings on the law enforcement program. And I had explained to the chief that previously that we don't have insurance with MMA, so we're not going to, you know, get a credit on a policy that we have in another entity. We have the commercial insurance because it's less expensive, and the police policy is good. So that's with a commercial carrier. It is not with the Maine Municipal Association, so we wouldn't get a credit. So that's not relevant. And so the next one is Public Works. So I went through and did the calculations for the mechanic position. The Public Works foreman had asked for this at his, at the budget workshop, no, at the Finance Committee meeting that you had previously. And so if he wasn't gonna get the overtime monies, and this would be more productive to have more people and spend a lot less overtime than $35,000 a year, to have an actual position, and he's planning for the future because his mechanic, you know, all of his workers, including himself, are older, and the mechanic will retire, or maybe wants to do something else, and you would hire a mechanic. So he asked for $20 an hour, and that seemed reasonable. So the cost came out for all the benefits, all the costs, at $60,992.
Is that a reasonable salary for a heavy equipment mechanic?
In this area, probably, but overall in
Really?
the state, no, but in this particular, you know, in this area up
Mhm.
here, it may be.
Okay.
But
Well, I'm
an-
just looking
anything,
our-
yeah,
our-
anything we do is gonna be hard to get anybody. We can't get it too far away from what the other employees make either.
No, I understand that. I'm just wondering if we're gonna get anybody to work for that.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be difficult to get anybody to work, period, to apply for the positions. So this position could help out with the plow routes as necessary when you have big storms, or we're not taking on any more plow routes right now, but that doesn't mean there's not gonna be one show up in 2021 here.
I don't know. I think that if we put in and we approve a position for a pay rate that is lower than what you can get, you know, in the private sector or even at other towns in the area, then we're, number one, we're gonna be shorting ourselves on the labor budget again, and we're gonna have a position that's gonna be open, we're not gonna find anybody to fill it.
This is happening with any position. All right, I'll go back. The Maine Municipal Salary Survey is not a good platform anymore. I will go in and look at that. The towns are frustrated with it, so not everybody is sending in their information. I may actually, because there's so much less information, I may actually just do a survey. Yeah, that'll be easier
Okay.
and probably better. So
Yeah,
we'll do a
it just seems
survey.
really low to me.
Yeah, how close is that to what the foreman is making right now?
I think he's making, well, it depends on, you know, what we do with salaries, but right now I think he's making 24 something,
Okay.
almost 25.
Yeah, I mean, you know, how much can you increase it and
Yeah, without, you know.
without him, you know?
Yes. Mhm. That's another consideration.
Yeah.
All right, I'll work on that one a bit. We're earlier this year, so we got more time.
Yeah, well, I don't know, this whole discussion just kind of highlights the fact that our pay scale for a lot of our employees is kind of lagging behind, where it doesn't reflect the reality of the economics of the area right now as far as being able to hire help.
Mhm.
And that puts us in a precarious position of, we're finally acknowledging that we do need more help, and now we can't find them and we can't attract them
Can't pay him.
because of that,
Mhm.
so, I don't know.
No, all the businesses are finding that they're upping the pay so much, it's aggravating the employees that they do have, and, you know, it's sort of a round circle here, so we're gonna have to make some overall changes.
It's tough,
Yeah.
it's
Well,
not
part of the problem
easy.
is, with the new pay raises that have gone into effect through
Yeah,
the state and the federal government,
And that
that
too
you can
has
go to
been-
McDonald's and get the same
Yes.
job and get the same pay as you get for a paramedic up here in the hospital.
Yes.
So
yes.
why go to school and,
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking, eventually we're gonna come up against $15 minimum wage,
you know,
you know, and, I mean, it's
Yeah.
coming, they'll just keep putting it in again and again until it goes through, like they have with all the other, referendums and stuff, so it's gonna come back around again. And eventually it'll get voted through just because of the way the state population is and stuff. And so it's the position that's gonna put us in, it's like you're gonna be offering, you know, just about minimum wage for a really high skilled labor job.
Mhm, mhm. So that's why I did put a little bit extra money into that overall account in the unclassified. One, we're doing some pay studies, minor ones, but we're gonna have to do a more major one. I had hoped that the new platform that MMA had for the salaries, which they did promote quite a bit, and I understand that makes life a lot easier for them, but it is not easy to maneuver in there. We put our information in first couple of years, we didn't do it this year. It just takes too much time, and the other towns are dropping out. So we're gonna have to do a little bit more work than what we normally would and call around to towns. This is something that I hope that I put enough money into that one account to do some changes. So it wouldn't be like a 2 or 3% increase, maybe adjustments need to be made. And it's a negotiation year, so it would be best to lump sum in
Right.
everything anyway.
I mean, that's what it comes out to me, it is what it is, I just wanna make sure that if we're gonna do this, we're gonna do it in a way that actually allows us to fill the position.
I know, I understand. And what we do with the pay may have to be a 2 or 3 year process, or maybe 2 years to actually do it, and that's what some towns have done. They've
Right.
fixed it as much as they can with the minimum wage thing coming in, because you're hiring, you know, teenagers for the summer program at just a little bit less than what you have employees here that have been here for several years, you know,
Right.
that are doing a lot
Right.
more complicated jobs. Yeah, this is true.
Well, you can be a financial clerk and get $16.68 an hour, Or is it next year you can get hired at $13 an hour for minimum wage?
Two more longs.
You know, help the kids color during the arts and
Yes,
crafts thing.
I know.
So it's, yeah.
Yeah, everything has changed. So, yes, and we may have to do this in a couple of years, because we won't be able to afford doing it all at once. But if we are doing it in a couple of years and people understand that, then, you know, that's a good thing too. We've always provided a lot more benefits, so, you know, they have good benefit packages, certainly. That's why a lot of people go, or used to go to towns and the state government, is because of the security and the benefit package. And so wages wasn't that important, but things have changed now. When you have a bag of groceries costs $30 or more, you know, you can't make a small wage and have a great benefit package.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep, so I'll look at that a bit more, but I think that position is needed, or another position is needed in Public Works, and then that's that for them. Because people, everybody, including themselves, want to do more, and to get the roads all fixed up and work on the buildings and do everything here. So the next one is the engineering. And so that is an estimate based upon the average cost to design out projects, road projects that we've done, water, sewer. So we would have a couple of projects that we would design out or get an idea, you know, of which ones we want to do if we had several looked at. Or we could cost out a whole variety of projects that are here and then get them into a priority list and then do the design with the construction project, you know, over a 2-year period. So there's different ways that you can do this, but I put in 3 projects or for design, or you could take a large number of projects and then get them all cost out, and then put together a more defined capital improvement plan for the future on the roads.
Would any of those projects that we propose be grant eligible at some point?
If they're highway, no, there's just no grant projects. Unless somehow, I don't see how this would work. The way that we got the industrial park rebuilt for us, which was a miracle, because that was coming apart underneath the road in a couple of places because of the heavy traffic, is that we got the industrial park expansion, and then the bids came in so good we had money left over, so you could work in your area around it. So they let us rebuild, you know, where the industrial park expansion is, they let us rebuild the road and pave it. And it just seemed like an amazing amount of pavement arrived to work on that from its intersection with Somerset down to the railroad tracks. They wouldn't go any further because they said it was too far away. It was a good defining area. So unless we got some money for purchasing other land for an industrial project or subdivision, like in another industrial park, and had roads in the area that needed to be fixed, and it worked out, we might be able to do that. But there's no grants for roads anymore. There used to be grant projects through the state of Maine called the collector road system, and certain types of roads that were shared by the town and the state for maintenance, you could go in and apply for those, and we got quite a few of them. When I was in Harmon, we got a lot of money, and then here we had 2 of them. And did projects with the state. They managed the project, we get a grant, we turn the money over to them. Those don't exist anymore. It doesn't mean that something won't show up again, but right now there isn't anything.
Okay.
So the only thing I can think of is if somehow we acquired some land through an EDA grant, and there was an area that needed to be rebuilt around that, and things worked out right, we might be able to fix a section of a road. Other than that, it would be your water sewer projects, and you get your shim coat only. You get to fix the area that was dug up, basically. So the roads are on their own,
Okay.
and that's why we got capital improvement plan, and are so fortunate to have the Pittsfield Future Fund to make that loan payment. So I think this one is good, we could cut it down and just do, 10,000, whatever we did is gonna be helpful. And if we bid these out, we might get a better price too. But we're gonna have to be careful, not all engineers are the same.
Well, I think it's a good idea to have kind of like shovel-ready projects, to have the engineering ready to go.
Yeah, I've done this in 2 other towns and it has worked out really good, but in those years you had grant funding too. Here it would get you ready for your next year of your CIP, which is important. So what do we think about this one?
I think it's worthwhile.
I think so too.
Bob, any ideas?
No?
Okay, all right, so right now we got it and we like it. We might need to change the amount. Okay, and then the last one is after Councilor Billings' review of the office, and she was in here quite a bit, she did determine that the water sewer department should go back to being separated from the town, in which we, when I arrived, had, and she remembers, one person that handled just water sewer who did not get involved in everything else.
And so they wouldn't be waiting on the counter, it would, unless it was water
Water
sewer
sewer,
related?
yeah. See, we've gone from everybody having separated, which worked well for a lot of years, I will say, from having designated, separated items without the cross-training to being fully cross-trained, which now is a lot to absorb and take care of. It did work well for a long period of time, but it is more complicated now on everything as the state takes over different areas or puts us all on a consolidated system. It's good, but it takes up a lot more time for the entries and everything. But it's good to get the information.
So who's doing what upstairs right now? The little write-up here says there are 2 financial clerks in the finance department in addition to the deputy treasurer. Emily is the deputy treasurer.
Emily's the deputy treasurer. So you have Ann and Michelle. Michelle is a financial clerk concentrating on water sewer,
Okay.
but also goes to the counter to help out with the auto registrations and all the
And then
regular clerk
Ann
functions.
Is the accounts payable.
Yeah, everybody will work on the election or when we need it on projects. Ann does the AP, which is the accounts payable, and that could take all day here, because we've got, with new department heads and, some people are exploring new vendors and, there's a lot of different vendors now, more so than we used to have.
So then if we added this, there would still be one person designated to accounts payable.
Yes.
And then the 2 financial clerks, one would be primarily water sewer, and then the 3rd person would be primarily on the counter and
I
then
think
helping
they have
out.
to be primarily on the counter, yeah.
Okay, and then if that person's out for some reason, then the accounts payable and the other water sewer person would help.
Yeah, everybody's still gonna be cross-trained. Deborah is right, people will get more work done if they're centered in certain areas. It's just because of the number of customers and how busy it is, everybody works on everything, and people are, they have the right to have time off, and people are sick, and, we need to cover and do all the other jobs too.
I think it makes sense to have people cross-trained, especially where it's a pretty open office.
Mhm.
And it is
Oh,
very
yes.
off-putting for
Yes.
you to see 3 people there and be told
Yeah.
that's not my job, you
Oh,
have to
I
wait for it
agree.
to open,
Yeah.
so.
I agree.
I think it's good customer service to have people cross-trained so that anybody can if somebody's on the phone somebody else can come up and help them.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I think it can be difficult for people to accomplish their primary goals if they're being pulled away, like you talked about
Oh,
earlier, being
yes,
interrupted
yes.
all the time.
Yep.
You know, trying to balance your accounts payable or enter things and then be interrupted constantly. So, I mean, I can see the value in having a dedicated person on the counter, you know, with the understanding that they fill in on other things as needed when they're not needed at the counter. Because if we're trying to have fewer people come in by offering online services, then eventually that should cut down the number of trips into the office, which might remediate some of the needs here.
Yeah, it might eventually.
Yes,
Over
eventually.
time, it's gonna take
Yeah.
a while for that to kind of click.
And even if it did, we can find plenty of different projects to work on. I mean, they can work on, you know, helping, you know, type the documents for the grants and, you know, all
Right.
the stuff.
There's
that-
always something.
There's
Yeah.
plenty. It's a town.
And they still have to cover each other for lunch.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Also.
Yeah, and that's
And
a several hour
vacations.
period, yeah.
And vacations,
Yeah.
so.
And that's why I've always stayed during the lunch hour and answer the phone and everything, and that way it helped. But you're pretty up to date on the type of things that can take place in a town.
So, last year when we talked about adding positions, primarily I think it was over the custodial position, people complained about the fact that the buildings weren't being maintained, and then we said, okay, we're gonna add a custodial position to help maintain the buildings, and we got a lot of flack for that.
Yes,
you
I
know,
know.
and then it's you know, so this is two positions that we want to add. I definitely think the public works needs to be there.
Yes.
And if we want to be able to provide better service within the office, then another clerk would be needed as well. And then we're also talking about, actually there's three positions here, we're also talking about a finance person, whether that's a office manager or an accountant type position. I'm leaning towards accountant versus HR. But we need to be able to justify these positions because it's not just a 1 year increase, you know, it's an every year increase, so that's at the rates that are in here. Where did that one go? So that's $185,000 a year just for those three positions.
Which would increase every year.
Right. It's not a one-time,
Yeah.
not a one-time thing.
So, to my knowledge, these are all the major items that are additionals that people have brought up. Have I missed anything? No. So I know we wanted to be more inclusive rather than deleting things in the beginning.
So overall, that's $242,175 in additionals.
How much?
$242,175 would include the finance position, so item number 1. It wouldn't include anything under item number 2. I didn't put the sign in there. Code enforcement, it was just $30,000. I didn't put the file cabinets in. Police was just the $4,380 for the policy work. Public Works was the full amount for the position and for the engineering, and then the water sewer enterprise accounts financial would be $53,000.
No, that's like potentially half of what was initially proposed, so.
Right.
As a first run through and a
Yes.
first blush,
It's
I
a
think.
first
Right.
run through, yeah.
Right. And my gut feeling is that the positions are what's gonna be targeted by other
Yes.
counselors and the public for elimination on that. It's just based on what happened the past couple of years, that seems to be the easy spot for people to say we don't need that.
I think so.
And then I had some questions about, and I didn't bring my book with me, sorry. There were some items in the additionals last year that we said no, not this year, because we wanted to do some other things, and then we said let's keep them in mind for this coming year. One of them was the generator, which we've already
Yeah, we've got,
funded somehow.
yeah, in the capitals.
That's
In the capitals, okay, so we shifted that over to capitals, and then the roof and the pointing and everything, we.
Yeah, so we still have those funds, yeah,
We got those funds already.
yeah.
Right,
We'll keep them
and
in the
then,
fund.
the carpet was one, I didn't think that we had actually put that through, but apparently we did, cause look, we have time.
Yes, and believe me, I'm glad that's done.
And then the other one that I really remember was the ball field right here in town that everyone was concerned about renovating that field to the infield with the gravel
Oh, okay.
over at Leggy Field
I
here
actually-
and about, is that just been resolved in some way through work over the summer or?
There has been some work done. Susie is working with a variety of volunteers, and she said she understood why that wasn't in there, thought the price was quite high, and so they're trying to figure out something else.
Okay, cause
Yeah.
I mean, they have gravel on sale through the end of October, which is today, but. they
It's a
have
special
that. Yeah.
stuff though, it's not just something you buy over the counter type stuff, so.
Yeah, it was the
Yeah.
Gorilla gravel stuff, but I didn't know if that was something that we needed to go back and take a look at and kind of pull off the back burner, or if it had been resolved.
No, they're working on that.
Okay.
For a solution. Now, if they could get that organized, that we may be able to apply, for some foundation funding. And so they're working on some pricing and different alternatives.
Okay. You guys remember anything else from last year that, I didn't bring my books.
All right, good. So to move on to the capitals, we don't need to go through all of those, but I did look at the funding sources and did a few calculations. I updated the debt service obligations to your 11/17 spreadsheet. I put in the amount that was the exact amount of what the loan came in for the 10-year period. And then, because that was a higher rate, and if we had our budget for capitals and didn't have any reconsideration of the budget like we had last year, you can go through the Maine Municipal Bond Bank, and we would need to do our motions and ordinance and everything in the beginning of January, which obviously we couldn't have done this year by any means, or if we had started it, we would have had to stop it. But we might be able to do that next year. The rate would not be as high as the rate that we have through the commercial sector, although the commercial sector rate for commercial sector was very good. So I left the amount in here. If we had the same amount of money was allocated, $706,000, but we can allocate any amount, could be less or more. That would give us $500,000 paving, and then other projects, and it might actually be able to be less. So with that would start with a payment in 2021. Put that on so you've got updated sheet for exact amounts for 2019, and then I carry that forward as an exact amount for 2020. And so that gives us an idea of how much money we would need through 2030 now. So that gives us another year. You'll
I'm sorry,
notice.
Catherine, I am so lost right now.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right. So
I'm
we
looking
just-
at it, I'm trying to follow
Yeah.
along, but I'm lost. Are you
Okay.
talking about the paving and miscellaneous
Yeah, so on
capital
the
projects 2019?
Yeah, by the 11/17, skip over those top ones that are waste transporter, fire
Yeah.
pumper, and highway paving. Those are the loans we have and their exact payments that go through 2026. And then in the additions, this was the excavator that is to be determined. It's still on Steve's list, and we had $10,000 in the budget.
Okay.
And so there's that one. And then I updated the paving miscellaneous capital projects to the exact amount of what the payments will be with the commercial bank that we went with.
So this
And-
is the loan that we just announced?
Yes, the loan we just got
Okay.
through Camden, which was so easy to do, it was scary. And then figuring that we may be able to go through the Maine Municipal Bond Bank next year, the interest rate would probably not be any higher than what we got even though the rates are going up a little bit, Maine Municipal Bond Bank is less expensive. So if we were able to do that this year without interim loans and everything, I put that exact payment on 2021, because that would be the first payment for a loan that you would do for a capital improvement for
For the same
for
amount as this year.
2020 for the same amount of money.
So
Now,
that's another 706,000.
6,000.
Okay, that's the part I was
Yeah.
missing. I was trying to figure out where that came in, 'cause I didn't see that number on here anywhere. I'm with you now.
Okay, so this is the easiest way to start out and look at, so we see our impact and everything on what we have to have for payments and what year. And then, I didn't give you the chart because I'm still waiting for the Portland Trust Company, and they're doing some calculations on interest rates and projections and everything. But I did go in and myself, make a few projections looking at how much money we had in the Pittsfield Future Fund. And we could, let's see. There we go. So, we have the Pittsfield Future Fund, and we had done out some calculations earlier this year, in May, when we were looking at the loan and how it would impact things, and when we would run out of money if we had 3 loans that were the same. So 3 years worth. That would be the 2019, the 2020, and a 2021 to get caught up on paving. And so we would run out of money to address all 3 payments in late 2027. If somehow we were able to do just 2 years, we would be able to go through and make our payments through 2030 with the way things are going. So if we just did 2 years, if we were lucky enough to figure out how to, not borrow money beyond 2020, 2 years worth would get us through, an 11-year period of making all the payments. So I thought that was interesting. So in the interim of Portland Trust Company working on different scenarios and everything, it's when we go for 3 years worth of payments that we run the account down pretty quickly. We run out of money, and then it is impacting the taxpayers.
So we pay off a highway paving bridge loan in 2021.
Yes.
So that, in theory, frees up $41,000, and then
It
we
does.
pay off another loan for $39,000 in 2022, which would, in theory, free up a total of 70 between those two
About
loans,
80,000.
almost $80,000, which is nearly the amount of, it's only $10,000 shy of what the 2023 third year would be.
In the interim of this, we'll have the fire trucks are heading in here. So I'm not sure we're gonna make it to 2022 fire truck wise, so we can do a projection for the fire truck if it happens in 2021 and see, what the costs are, and Bernard has some different ideas on that. He's gonna not ask for anything in 2020, but on the capital improvement plan, you'll see that, he definitely thinks we need something in 2021.
And you think that the lease purchase is the way to keep going with the fire trucks? Isn't that what we did with this
Yeah,
one?
that has worked out pretty good, so that probably will pop itself back in here. If we can wait till 2022, 2023 would be even better, but I don't think we're gonna make it. It's in 2022 that probably we'll have to get a truck.
If we can make it to 2023, those other loans being paid off would almost fund
Yes,
another fire
exactly,
truck.
Yeah.
it would work out
And be like
perfect.
a net. At the very least, we would only have 1 year of, you're paying off one of them in 2021, so in 2022, you would be possibly adding, is the fire truck gonna be about the same amount as the one that we just bought, do you think? Ish?
It depends on what we get. By the figures he gave me, no, but
Or less?
you never know. So the fire truck is the one item that We could put it into the actual CIP, but then nothing else will get done. You know, if you try to keep it down. And then we've got just so we're on top of this, because we'll do capitals in much more detail in the future. But the Public Works foreman put in, again, for the higher amount, you know, instead of having, you know, the amount, the 500,000, he's asked for $1 million, you know, again. But it's highly doubtful that we do that.
Well, if you don't ask for it, you don't get it.
That's what he
If
said
you
to
do
me.
ask for it, you're still not
That
getting
is what he said.
Yeah.
So I don't know how we keep to 2 years for the CIP monies that are gonna be 2 years worth of loans for the CIP monies that would be matched by the Pittsfield Future Fund, but if you could make your payments for, you know, a 10-year period. If you have 3 years is where you will run out in 2027. I've done different scenarios, and Portland Trust Company is doing this again. It depends if the interest rates change drastically, then, you know, go way up, that you might be able to, because you'll have a lot of interest to go further. And I didn't, when I calculated in doing the $706,000, I did not include the fire truck in there because that throws out everybody else.
Yeah. And we got no way to know where the money's gonna come from, even if we go for 3 years after that for paving, except for the
Yes,
taxes.
exactly, yep. It's going back to the taxes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a miracle that we have these monies.
Yeah.
I keep thinking
We
every
should
year.
just give some back to the state and have them invest it for us.
Boy, they did really good. But we would call up and ask, you know, why is this in this fund? Can we spend this, you know? And they would always say no, and then one year they said yes after their audit, and all the towns got money back. It was a miracle.
So do we have, knowing that we need fire trucks, do we have a line item in there that it's, you know, $10,000 a year is put away for
No,
fire
there was
trucks or
a
equipment
discussion,
or-
yeah, there was a discussion with Bernard, you know, $10,000 doesn't do anything toward the, you know, a ladder truck or a pumper, so.
Well,
it's-
but, I mean, it can be any amount, but, I mean, do we have it set up, and I apologize again, I didn't bring my book, but.
No, it's okay. We used to do that, but not anymore, no.
It seems like a better way to do it so that there isn't that sticker shock.
I think that the thought, and I remember there was a discussion with Bernard, it just isn't gonna make that much of a
Yeah, I think that makes
difference.
sense that, you know, the amount that we could put away wouldn't make enough to. And I don't remember what it was, I think it was only like 5,000 a year we was putting away, but
We did 10.
was it 10?
Yeah.
But well, I mean, like she said, in 5 years, it's only 50,000, and that price of a truck is 400,000, so
Yeah.
it doesn't do a whole lot to.
So then there were so many capital needs, we just used it for other items. It works good for the library, because it got fixed up, so now it's like maintenance.
Right. Right.
Yeah, that's what we always did when, in the 80s and 90s, that's what we did.
How long did we take the lease for on the fire truck?
Pardon?
The lease on the fire truck, what, 10 years?
2026.
You could go anywhere from 10 to 20 years
10
usually.
to 20 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
We've had some 15s that seem to work out as a good payment,
Yeah.
or 12, we had a 12.
I see where there's somebody that's giving away a fire truck. I saw it on the news the other night.
Mm-hmm.
A town, I don't know if it's a town or the state, or all you do is write a letter why you needed it or something.
I think it was a town.
But I think it's brand new though, I don't think it's used.
I just heard the rumor. I'll have to go look that up, if it's new.
I think it was new. I don't know if it was a ladder truck or not, but.
No, probably not. That would be a miracle. So this gives you an idea, it's an updated chart. Probably our interest rate in our payment would likely be around the amount in 2020, unless there's a drastic change in the interest rates. And that could happen. It gives us the opportunity, everything's in order and there's not changes at the last minute or later on. We can go with the Maine Municipal Bond Bank in January, but we'd have to be highly organized. Anything else we can think of? I'll do updated figures on how the Pittsfield Future Fund through Portland Trust would be impacted with some, different scenarios that they're running. But again, it's all just a guess over a 10-year period.
Would we actually need $706,000 every year? Because not all of that went to actual paving, or that would just be split up amongst other capital projects.
I think you split it out, the extra above the
And another
paving.
206 was.
You could come
was
up
the-
with
like the roof and
enough
the
items that would
pointing
need to be
500
done.
for paving.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Or if paving, you could put more toward paving.
Mhm.
Mhm. Of course, there's different scenarios. If any grants ever did come up for roads, I think you'd have half the state of Maine after them, but
Yeah,
we
no, the whole
would
state.
work hard on it. All right, anything else we can think of? So at the next council meeting, we'll have all the administrative accounts, and we could also probably dive into some of the public safety items or public works items that don't have a department head. There's a few things like streetlights and stuff like that. You may be able to do that. And then you've got a workshop that's dedicated toward the capitals, which is likely needed because we can talk about the whole capital plan and everything. So that's your next meeting after that, the next week. I don't think you can probably combine all those with the council meeting. That would probably be too much. But you may be able to skip around and pick up a few other items, and if we think we're gonna get into the departments, I'll make sure the department heads know. And then on the council agenda, at the next meeting, you'll have a couple of bids, so that we can get some pricing for next year on projects that we put in the capitals. And I put on the bicentennial, with the ideas that Howard had, which I think is really good, dedicating, approximately $2,500 to the boat launch, $2,500 to those beautiful historic pictures there, for the signs. Those are beautiful, getting those all up and everything. And then the rest toward like a Pittsfield Fun Day or a Pittsfield Day to celebrate the anniversary. And I did put a note down that any excess funds, because you may, keep the collectibles may pipe up again next year when you do those other two projects. When the signs go up, people might want, get into the collectibles again a little bit more, so that any of the other funds that were raised from the collectibles above that, the amount of 10,000, would go towards the Pittsfield Fun Day, or Pittsfield Anniversary Day. Then that way you've got a nice package, and that's what we're gonna do for the future. And the Pittsfield celebration would become a fund, so that if monies were left over, they would carry over the next year and it'd have its own account like all these other special revenue things. So that sounded good. All right. If we're all set, Bob?
Make a
you-
motion, we adjourn.
Motion made.
Second.
Second it.
The motion to go thaw out.
All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.
Nobody fought it.
They never do. One motion, well, I can remember one time that nobody seconded it.